I came in thinking it was like more about sharing the gospel. And yes, during the trip, we had plenty of opportunities to do that. By the end of the trip, my heart's position was like, let me just serve the church.
Going into GenSend, I thought I was gonna become like a superstar evangelist. And when I got there and I didn't have all these like just instant options to share the gospel, I started to get discouraged a little bit, but I was reminded that like success is faithfulness too. And in faithfully like serving a church and faithfully like being present in a community, I came out of it and I started to see things in myself that I would have never dreamed of happening. I became a lot more committed member of my church in Riverside, right? I started to serve, I started to spend more time with my church because I learned like the value that it has to support your local church and invest in relationships there. And then as I seek to spend more time in my community in Riverside, I've gotten opportunities now to start to build relationships and share the gospel that way, because I don't just spend all my time on campus, but I've learned how to go out and engage the community I'm with to reflect God to others.
Yes. I remember a lot of the guys over the summer talked about how before their heart was like, oh, this other person shared the gospel and I didn't get to, but instead taking joy in like the wins for the whole team in the ministry of like, oh, somebody came to faith or somebody got to share the gospel for the first time today. So I thought it was really cool that everyone's heart was changing over the summer.
Yeah, and it was super exciting too to see that ministry isn't something that you do by yourself. It's something that you get to do in community with like a team of people together. And that was something that I really appreciated about my experience, was it taught me how joyful it is to like experience this alongside other people. And it's not as scary when you're doing it with people who have like similar vision as you.
I'd say that was the first time I caught vision for God's heart for the nations, not only in the context that we were working in, but people who aren't here, and how I could be playing a part now with praying and supporting those who are going, and even preparing myself in whatever that may look like in the future.
That's so cool. I think like another aspect of like God's heart for why we do ministry is something that stood out to me. It's not his desire that we try to do like everything perfectly or like find a lot of people and just share as quickly as we can, but it's God's heart for like people to know him, and that is his joy, and he invites us into that joy. So like in sharing, like success would be like being faithful and feeling that joy, not just getting a lot of metrics done and doing things just to check them off.
Last year I got a special opportunity to room with the guy that disciples me, so I got to see what he did on a daily basis, and I think I really grew in appreciation for his faithfulness, not only to me like in front of me, but also was going around behind doors. So it was planning the trips and being on time to different places, or his own spiritual disciplines and him being faithful and praying and reading.
I think living in a community that wasn't familiar to me, and living with a group of people who some of them I knew, some of them I had just met, taught me a lot of like humility and like trust in people around me, right? Like I was living with House of Strangers, but that taught me to like trust the people around me and trust the ministry leaders. That like I didn't know where we might be going some days or what we would be doing, but I trusted like that they could make good choices. So it taught me like maybe what I had like previously known wasn't maybe the best way to do things. And also like in living with other people, my heart learned to like care for them by like sharing my food and doing the laundry. So it taught me a lot about just living with people better.
I had the opportunity to share the gospel with one guy, and he received Christ. He went out with us and shared the gospel, and it's just his testimony. God was working in his heart to have a hope that he wanted to share with others. I think something that kept me present and engaged would be discipleship and wanting to be faithful and available to my church. And I knew having to be available, I would have to be focused and maybe let people know and have hard conversations of like, I'm here for 6 weeks. It's not that long, but I want to be focused and intentional with my time.
Yeah, and I liked how you talked about people too. Something that kept me committed was having people around me who are excited about growing and who are excited about learning to be a church member well and sharing the gospel. Like just having that like energy around you of people all being excited and eager to grow for the same thing was really encouraging to me to want to grow too.
I think I'm going back this year is because I want to use my summers wisely. I think I caught vision for that a few years ago through discipleship, but this is my last summer, so I'd really love to use this one wisely and invest in spiritual growth and doing it in a community that will be here next year, and I get to do it again with them during the school year. So thank you so much, guys.